Okay.
All right. My name is Kal Molinet, and you are Jen Helfeld. And I've seen
That's
a
right.
lot of your videos in the past, and I applaud you for your great Socratic method that you've done, in
Thank
particular
you.
the one with Bernie Sanders.
Thank you. That's been very popular recently.
Right, especially today.
Unfortunately, he's not doing too well
No, he's
with
not.
Hillary.
Right.
Yeah, well, I hope he wins. That'll increase my views.
So, it's kind of like there's a guy who kind of looks like Bill Clinton. You know, I guess sometimes Saturday Night Live, the people kind of look like some of the presidents. They're out of a job if the president no longer is in office. Or
Right. There's another actual reason why I'd like him to win, because one of the big problems of American politics is that the distinctions between philosophy are not drawn, because the two parties, Republican and Democrat, try to eke out the middle, so they become very similar, because the whole strategy is to get the other guy, the other party, on the 49% and eke out the 51% to win the election. So differently in Europe, for example, when you get proportional representation, it's not winner take all election. You are able to discuss the issues and take positions. So you got a communist party, you got a socialist party, you got a capitalist party, so you can have a discussion of ideas, and we don't get that in America. So that's very frustrating.
that's very true. Yeah.
So if he won, maybe we could have that.
You're gonna have that.
I hope.
I mean, what do you think about
Wait a
him
second.
hanging his Soviet communist flag, right, in his office, right? So there's a lot of weird stuff about him in general. But I guess that's a topic for another conversation about Bernie Sanders. I guess wondering, how do you define a free market?
A free market is a market where the relationships between adults are based on mutual consent for mutually perceived self-interest. So that's the underlying principle of a free market. It means that people are respected, not forced to take actions either through force or fraud against their judgment. Essentially, what the free market does is that it protects a fundamental value that human beings need to have protected by their nature, which is their judgment. To be able to follow your own judgment as long as you don't violate someone else's rights.
So I guess consent, respect for private property, voluntary exchange.
Well, yes, it's mutual consent, and but the value that's being protected is the individual judgment of each individual human being. We're talking about adults because when you're a kid, your judgment is suspect.
Yeah, you can say that. They're still learning and trying to figure out the world. Yeah,
right.
That's true. So would you say today that we have a free market?
No, we have a mixed economy at this point. And that's why we don't have much growth, and that's why we are in economic stagnation, because a mixed economy isn't going to perform. We have aspects of free market, and to some degree, and we have aspects of a controlled, planned economy.
Right, like wherever the state interferes, because it's not mutual consent there, like eminent domain would say at any time, that's not your land. Property tax would say that's not your house. Laws like on cannabis will say that's not your body, right? Would you, here at this conference, here that we are today, would you consider yourself a libertarian?
Absolutely.
And how would you define a libertarian?
Well, actually, I'd consider myself even more fundamentally an objectivist.
An objectivist, okay.
Yeah, because all objectivists are libertarians, but all libertarians are not objectivists.
Okay.
So the broader category, So obviously, yes, I am a libertarian. I would say a libertarian is a person who is committed to individual rights and wants you to have your rights respected, and is in favor of the principle that I mentioned initially.
Mutual consent.
Which is that relationships should be based on mutual consent. I also include with individually perceived self-interest. In other words, each individual is deciding what they think is good for them.
Right.
So I
like the
throw
invisible
that
hand in the market, right?
The invisible hand is just a result of all the people making their free choices.
Right, in pursuit of their self-interest, rational self-interest, you would say. Beautiful.
If you're an objectivist, you should say rational self-interest.
Right.
Because just because you're doing what you want to do doesn't mean it's in your self-interest. You could be making a mistake. But in a free society, we respect the fact that if you want to make a mistake with your own life, with your own money, as long as you're not violating other people's rights, go for it.
If I think your opportunity cost is kind of irrational, we'll say it otherwise, right?
Right.
All right, so I guess in terms of libertarian, so I guess would that fall with like the non-aggression principle against initiation of force in terms like of mutual consent?
Yeah. So yes, the principle that Ayn Rand identified originally, the non-initiation of physical force, was identified to give a guideline between when you're violating somebody else's rights and when